What darnation?
I meant to do that.
Howdy folks, this is Applegeek, and it is time to watch My Little Pony Season 8, Episode 11. I do apologize in advance if I have to suddenly clear my throat or cough a little bit or whatever. I unfortunately picked up a little bit of some sinus junk in my head back at Everfree, and I've been doing my best to get over it. I am almost over it now, but just kind of lingering a little bit still, so and I apologize for that, but hopefully it'll be okay here. And the good news is I know absolutely nothing about this episode. I've not gotten any hints, any titles, anything on this one. This is 100% blind this time. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and give this one a watch. Episode 11, starting now. Spike and Rarity.
I appreciate you showing me the way to the Phoenix Nest, Spike.
The Phoenix?
Rarity. Besides, I've been meaning to visit Pee-wee.
After,
Really
what,
an
7
excellent
seasons?
Can't imagine why you set him free.
6, 7 seasons?
Phoenixes aren't meant to be domestic.
Okay, finally.
Even in the wild, they like to keep to themselves.
They are beautiful. A few of their feathers will add just the right splash of color to my native Spike.
Is going on here?
What are you doing?
Nothing.
Is there something wrong with your face?
It's a stone scale. It isn't magical or anything like the Call of the Dragon Lord. It's just red and itchy and embarrassing.
Spike's got a pimple.
Ooh, precious pants.
Oh.
It does look uncomfortable. But even I get the odd
Wait.
blemish from time to time.
Spike going through puberty?
You could pay Zecora a visit. She makes a cream that works wonderfully.
That's an option.
Just don't get the shampoo.
Nice reference.
Parents.
Yes! Phoenixes.
But I don't see Pee-wee.
Oh, maybe he moved out. Every pony has to leave the nest at some point.
True. Oh, there he is.
Pee-wee!
Nice. Aww.
Ouch!
Ooh. Must really hurt.
Perhaps you should pay Zecora a visit sooner rather than later.
Zecora
I
episode.
don't want any pony else to see this. Besides, I'm sure it'll clear up after a good night's sleep.
Or it could get worse.
I can't believe you're
Twilight.
still asleep.
Just 5 more minutes.
How bad's it gonna be? He's Garfield!
Nearly to help me with my lecture for class today.
Noon. Whoa! I slept like a rock. Which reminds
And
me,
face is covered,
all that
isn't
sleep
it?
probably cleared up my stone scale.
On second thought, you can go back to sleep if you want.
Uh-oh. Yep. Okay! Well, first Spike episode in a while. I'm not sure where this is going, but my mind's already going places, so we'll see how far they take this. I've been waiting a long time for Spike to like grow up a little bit, but they're not real big on aging characters in the show, so I'm not sure where we're going here. Would be cool if Zecora shows up again, though.
Spike, what are you doing?
Hiding from
What
a
do you
hideous
think?
face.
I'm sure it feels terrible, but it's just a breakout. It's not the end of the world.
That's easy for you to say. Your face
Molt
isn't
down?
covered in itchy red spots.
I used to get terrible breakouts anytime I had a final exam with Celestia, who probably never had a blemish her whole life.
Well, I'm
Not
not
necessarily.
No, but these things can be stress-related, and you did spend yesterday with Rarity.
What could possibly be stressful about that?
So...
You could try Zecora. She makes a cream that...
Works wonders, I've heard. But I'm not leaving the castle until my face is back to its adorable self.
Fine, but you're still gonna help me practice my lecture. Ahem. the element of generosity and its importance in relation to the other elements of harmony.
Wow!
My lecture!
It's gone.
I
Bye
don't know
bye.
what happened? I just had a sudden case of... I'm so sorry.
Safety
It's
first.
okay. I'm sure I can rewrite the lecture from my notes. I have a lot.
I can
Yeah,
help
I'm
you
not
with-
surprised.
Maybe you
Nope,
should
nope,
leave
nope.
the castle after all, and go somewhere less flammable.
Well, it's a crystal castle. That's probably not going to burn down, but all the stuff in it is flammable.
Hey there. Not handsome.
Oh, that outfit again.
Oh, Spy!
Oh, no.
My, what a fetching ensemble you put together. Very noir-esque. I believe Shadow Spade herself would approve.
Thanks.
More continuity.
But I wonder if you wouldn't mind
Or
taking
callbacks, at least.
What? Oh, what?
Sorry,
What?
you'll have to speak up. My ears are a little bit clogged or something. It's just that I absolutely must have a model for my phoenix feather dress, and no pony else is available.
Sorry, Rarity, but I am super busy all day giving tours of the school.
Really? I thought I was giving tours today. Guess not.
Aw. Pinky. Wow.
Classrooms are that way. Dorms are that way. Twilight's office is up there. This is a fountain.
Obviously.
Could you slow down a bit? We've come a long way to see the school, and I don't want to miss anything.
Oh, yeah. Sorry.
That looks very uncomfortable.
Is something wrong?
What? Why? No.
Do all the dragons at this school suffer from scale issues?
I don't know.
Technically, yes, because he's...
What?
wait, no, Smolder's there. Never mind. I was going to say he's the only dragon there, but...
I'm sorry. Did you say fireworks show?
I said, I don't know.
Ooh. Okay, well, this is cool. We get to see a little more of the school here. Oh, hey guys!
This is a
Jonas,
school
Mulder, Sandra?
library. It's one of the most serene spots on campus where students can spend time in quiet reflection or study.
Despite losing his ability to
Could you
speak
please
it...
stop shouting? We're
normal
trying to do our
volumes?
homework, and it's kind of distracting.
Was I shouting?
Yes, you still are.
Yeah.
Or is it a hearing issue?
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Well, cat's out of the bag now. Oh, now they're turning purple too. Smolder knows what's going on. You should really get that looked
If you're
at.
trying to hide, you need to do a better job. All I had to do was follow the smoke.
Uh-huh.
Leave me alone.
What?
Oh, now I lost his voice.
Me.
I can't Was that sleeves made of foam?
I said, leave me alone.
Wow.
Wow! I have seen some pretty bad molts in my time, but yours takes the cake.
Okay, he's molting. Molt now.
Molt, super painful stone scales, fire burps, uncontrollable volume shifts. It's all part of growing up dragon. Congrats!
Alrighty then.
Oh, sorry.
Well, yeah, he has no frame of reference. He's been the only dragon in Ponyville, so this is new information.
The last time I grew up, I turned into a giant greedy monster.
Yeah, there's that.
Induced bigness. That's totally different.
Oh,
The
okay.
molt is completely normal. Every dragon goes through it. Pretty soon you'll leave and strike out
Puberty.
on your own.
Why would I do that?
Have you been living with ponies your whole life?
Yes!
Well, in the Dragonland, a molter's loved ones kicks them out at the first stone scale.
What? Why?
Well, I think it's biological. We call it the molt effect. I haven't even told you about the smell.
Smell?
Uh-oh.
Ugh.
Yeah, I mean, I love my brother and all, but one whiff and I was all, see ya! Speaking of which...
Ooh.
Wait. Does the Molt effect happen to ponies too? Twilight
Why
already
would
asked me
you
to leave
think
the castle
that?
today. If she kicks me out, where am I gonna live? I'm too young to grow up.
I'm sure you'll find a nice hoard of gems to guard or a village to terrorize. Oh, now that dragons and ponies are friends, I guess that's off the table.
Yeah, a little
No
bit.
creature's gonna want to be around me?
Oh, I didn't say that. That
It's just a phase.
For predators. Tatzelworms, hydras, rocks.
Dragons are scared of rocks?
Rocks?
R-O-C-S. Rocks. Humongous birds of prey that can snack on a molting dragon like candy.
I want to see one of those.
No, and the only creatures who don't find me disgusting want to eat me?
Seriously, I heard none of that.
Twilight's kicking me out, and the only creatures who don't find me disgusting want to eat me?
Congrats! Hey! Is this the shouting closet? Because I've got a free day and I'm totally up for some shouting!
Yeah.
So, where's that Brussels sprouts covered in cotton candy smell coming from? Because it is really interesting.
That is a very interesting description of the smell.
I didn't know where else to
Yeah.
go. I can't take
Finally,
it.
Zagora.
Kick me out. You aren't feeling any Molt effects, are you?
When it comes to breakouts, I've seen all circumstances. But as for the Molt smell,
Clothespin.
let's not take any chances.
Is there anything you can do to cure me?
The ailments you have aren't something to cure. The Molt's a condition that dragons endure.
Yep, just gotta get through
But
it.
if any pony sees or smells me right now, they'll be so grossed out they'll avoid me forever.
Perhaps we can lessen this.
The question is, how
strain.
long is this gonna
The
last?
smell is the most likely cause,
Day,
I suspect.
week, month?
It's all so embarrassing.
I know you are speaking, but I can't hear a thing. Are you talking about teaching asparagus to sing?
What? Asparagus to sing. And now,
The goal is to not have your friends all depart. Perhaps your volume is where we should start.
Oh no.
nice save.
Hello?
Oh, Rarity again.
I can't let Rarity see me like this. Please don't let her know I'm here.
Oh boy.
Oh dear! I'm talking even louder than I thought, aren't I?
I have volume concerns today by the scores, but it seems that I'm ready to help you.
What is going on here?
I'm sorry? I can't seem to hear anything. I was hoping you could help. I have no
I'm
idea
confused.
what happened. 1 minute I was sewing phoenix feathers onto a dress, and the next I couldn't hear my own voice.
Something with the
Ah,
phoenix
the feathers
feathers?
of that bird can affect pony's ears. It's a magic ailment I've treated for years.
Okay, that's where that
I
came
only
from.
know you're talking because your mouth is going up and down.
She can't hear you, but she can smell you.
Goodness, I hope that incredibly pungent odor belongs to some sort of magical curative. I hope you are not busy, but I must have my hearing back. It turns out that I talk to myself while I sew, and without that conversation, I simply can't think.
Cure. And the directions are clear. Just 1 or 2 drops in each of your ears.
Oh, thank you.
Interesting
You're a
revelation about
lifesaver.
Rarity and her sewing methods.
While I am here, do you have any blemish cream? Spike is having some scale issues.
You have no idea!
Oops. And now she can hear.
Heard something. Your cure is working already.
Oh
The
boy.
cream that you want is just over here. It's a popular potion for all creatures this year.
Oh, thank you, Zakora.
Aw.
I don't mean to be rude, but I do think your hut could use an airing out.
Rarity's
Yeah.
gone. There's no need to hide.
And okay, well he's still somewhere in the vicinity.
Now, I wonder if we should continue outside.
Yeah.
Can't treat your symptoms down there on the ground. It's safe to come out. There's no ponies around.
I'm not hiding from ponies. I'm hiding from that!
What? A rock! Yes! I had this feeling we'd be seeing those. Fan art. I predict fan art of this.
Predators.
That's something that would have been quite nice to know, but it's not worth discussing right now. We should go.
Yes, let's, please. The thing is huge! Excuse me.
It's only after me. I'll lead it away while you get help. This way, birdie bird. Molting dragon over here.
Okay, well. Okay.
Okay, maybe this wasn't a good plan.
You can't hide in a tree. You have to come down. We stand a much better chance on the ground.
That's true. Oh no!
Bring her back!
What? 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 What is happening? Oh no!
What are you doing here?
Rarity, you have to get out of here. There's a giant rock trying to eat me. It's got
Is this really happening?
Yes.
Is Spike gonna get his
I
wings?
was just at Sakura's, but I'm heading back. I can't read these instructions. Does this say 2 drops once a day or 1 drop twice a day?
Rarity, there's no time. We have to get help.
Yes, my ears are completely blocked. Why, Spike,
Bird's gonna kidnap Rarity. Spike's gonna lose it.
Yes. Oh, here, I picked up just the thing. Ah!
Oh, he got Spike too. Okay.
Oh, I wish you'd escaped either claw of this bird, but the both of us trapped in the same one's absurd.
What?
Come on, Spike. You got this. Relief. Oh boy. Well, hi, Twilight.
What are you doing? If my stone scales didn't itch so much, and we weren't in immediate danger, this would be really embarrassing.
Danger?
Look up. Oh, now he's gonna take Twilight. Oh. Whoa.
Well, I was headed to Sakura's to get
Okay.
some cream for your scales. I had no idea
That's
you
popular stuff this year.
About to be eaten by a giant predator attracted to my molt smell?
Molt smell? Was that Rarity?
And
Yep.
Sakura. I tried to save them, but it's all I can do to stop scratching long enough to dive out of the way when that bird attacks.
Okay. What's gonna... Whoa. Battle mode.
Every time I've been in the clutches of a horrible giant creature, but it doesn't get any easier.
that eye roll. Come on. What's... Oh.
Ah, finally.
And they're gone,
that itching
but...
would ever stop.
Oh! Now we're gonna do a little cocoon here.
What's happening? I can't run.
Wait for it. Come on. Show me some wings. Yes! 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 Yes!
Did I just sprout wings?
Yes, you did. Yes! Finally!
I've got to help them.
Yeah, you got wings now, buddy.
Whoa.
Doesn't mean you know how to fly. Okay, come on. Just take it easy. You got this. You got this.
Whoops.
Okay, I can't wait till Dash finds out. I bet she'll challenge him to a race.
How did you get wings?
I don't know. They're pretty awesome.
Do you think you can fly?
We can ask Twilight the same question.
Rarity?
Mm-hmm. Oh, yes.
Chicken! Give you like dragon show. Come and get me!
Oh, it is on. Whoa! Dang. Ooh. Extra crispy chicken. And of course, Spike gets rarity. Yep.
I know that the Molt produce surprising things, but I'm glad that the last was a new pair of wings.
Yes.
Yes, and also I'm glad you've got wings! This is amazing.
Rarity.
I didn't know if you'd ever get wings. I'm so happy for you.
Yeah, Smolder neglected to mention that little
This
detail.
Molt you were talking about?
Huh. It's what's been going on with me. The breakout, the fire burps. The molt is when dragons get older and start to change. I wish I could stop it, but I can't. I should go.
Oh, come on,
Oh,
Spike.
What are you talking about?
In the Dragonlands, families make molters leave home. It's called the Molt effect.
Well, this isn't the Dragonlands, and
Thank
Molt
you.
effect or no, I don't want you going anywhere.
Oh,
But I'm growing up. What if something even worse happens?
You're supposed to grow up, but you'll always be you.
yes.
And whatever happens, we'll get through it together.
Aww.
Let's go home!
I don't need to carry you anymore, do I?
Yeah.
You have wings.
They are new, and I don't want to overdo it.
Spike, really?
I can't believe you thought any of us would send you away because of some silly molt effect. Even if the symptoms
Whoa.
were slightly unsettling.
That
and let's
dress looks
face
cool.
It, the odor wasn't pleasant. No pony would stop caring for you just because you were getting older. Every pony goes through changes. Sometimes change can be wonderful. Like being able to model for any length of dress.
That works.
A bit higher, darling, please.
I'm glad to help, Rarity. But don't you think there's wonderful things about flying that don't involve dresses?
Of course, darling. Flying will also be beneficial for you to help me with gowns, frocks, robes, shifts, skirts, minis, mantles.
This Rarity and Spike thing, I don't even... Anyway. Well, it finally happened. Man, this has been theorized and talked about and whatever, I mean, for years, and it's finally happened. And I love the way that they used Smolder to kind of, you know, assist with this situation. That really made that work well. Because otherwise, well, I suppose they could have done a trip to the Dragonlands otherwise, but this worked much better, I thought. So, all right. Stay tuned, you guys. I will be right back with my thoughts on this. Josh Haber, thank you for once again giving us a good Spike episode. This was a really good one, in my opinion. Spike is finally getting to grow up a little bit. I wasn't sure this was ever going to happen for him, honestly. And unlike a certain pony that has been through this before, this time there's really no question about, you know, does he deserve it or not. Spike is not a princess. This is a biological thing for dragons. They are all supposed to grow up and get wings, apparently. At least that is now... We theorized on that. That is now confirmed for us. And honestly, my headcanon has always been that, given that Spike is pretty much the only dragon, I'm pretty sure, that we've ever seen in this show that does not have wings, figured, well, he's bound to get them sooner or later. I just wasn't sure if we were actually going to see that happen before the show ended or not. And thankfully we did. So there's really, really no question about that. But, you know, as I was going back through the old episodes here, I decided to take a little stroll down memory lane with Spike's growth over the course of this show. And turns out he's grown a lot more than I had realized. There's actually a lot more Spike-focused episodes than I had remembered. So, and of course some of these are from back before I was doing reactions and really doing deep analysis, so I'd kind of forgotten a lot of what's in the older seasons. So I'm just going to step through a few of the moments here where Spike had some focus in the past and learned some great lessons, and start to see what I'm seeing here, hopefully. To start with, all the way back to Season 1, All's Well That Ends Well. Is a case where Spike was getting jealous of Aloysius, Twilight's new pet, because he thought Twilight was replacing him with the owl. And what was really happening is Twilight just needed some help at night, and she was concerned about Spike's well-being as a baby dragon. Didn't want to keep him up all hours of the night, so she wasn't replacing him. It's just like there's just another member of the family now, essentially. So it's plenty of love to go around. So, yeah, ultimately Spike learned that he was wrong for being jealous and telling lies and trying to frame Aloysius and whatever. I mean, he should have just talked to Twilight about it, and shared his feelings on it. And Twilight did admit she should have been, maybe a little bit more sensitive as well. But really, it was on Spike. He took things too far, and he owned up for it and apologized, which was great. And he got his first big responsibility there. He got to write his own letter to Princess Celestia, telling her what he had learned. So that was cool. Season 2, Secret of My Excess. Big one that was referenced somewhat in this episode here. Greed-induced bigness. We now have an official term for that, thanks to Smolder. First time that Spike sort of grew up, albeit in the wrong way. And given that that's a totally different thing, it makes sense why he didn't have wings, blah, blah, blah. But, yeah, good little lesson for him there. Learned that it's much more fulfilling to give than to receive. So, lesson about greed. Also in Season 2, Dragon Quest. Here is the first big kind of meltdown for Spike, where he had a bit of an identity crisis. Who am I, really? Where did I come from? What's my heritage? All on perfectly legitimate questions to ask, granted. So, so that was an interesting little adventure that he went on there. And ultimately, he learned that from that he is more important. It is more important. Sorry, getting my words ahead of myself here. He learned that who he is more important than what he is. He learned that Equestria is his home, and the ponies are his family. So, I mean, it's not wrong to want to learn about your heritage, not in the least. I fully support that, but at the same time, just because you're from someplace doesn't mean that who you are and where you are now is not legitimate. So, important lesson there. And of course, that was the episode where we first met, Pee-wee. He actually saved Pee-wee from the other dragons, so that was cool. Season 3, The Crystal Empire. Not really a Spike-focused episode, but some interesting moments in there. First of all, we saw where Spike had a vision, caused by the dark magic from Sombra, where Twilight was sending him away, saying she didn't need him anymore. So that, pointing out to us that there is still this kind of deep-rooted fear in him that he is someday going to be, cast out and rejected by his family. And of course, Twilight, did her best to assure him that she would never send him away, which is great. And then, of course, he ended up playing a significant role somewhat significant role in saving the Crystal Empire from Sombra. I mean, basically just fell out a window with the Crystal Heart, but hey, he played a role, so I'll give him that. And of course, also in Season 3, Spike at Your Service. Arguably one of the worst Spike episodes. But, absurdities aside from that episode, the whole thing was he was getting hung up on his personal dragon code, which I'm not even sure where that came from. Maybe something he devised after his little escapade to the Dragonlands, not sure. But he basically was trying to pay back a life debt. It's like, you saved my life, therefore I am indebted to you for life, and I will serve you until that debt is fulfilled. And honestly, as misguided as it might have been, I give him major props for taking on the responsibility and sticking to his personal standards on that. I mean, he was not going to back down from his self-defined principles for anything. He had his stance on something, and he stood up for what he believed in. That was really awesome to see. Big step forward in responsibility on his part. And ultimately, though, he did finally learn that true friends help each other without expecting anything in return. So, and we haven't ever seen that come back again, the whole Dragon Code thing, so I think he learned that lesson well. And again, in Season 3, Just for Sidekicks, fun little kind of a side story there. he got into a lot of trouble with all the main six's pets, because of his self-centeredness over wanting to get these gems to bake this cake, which he had gems in the first place and he ate them all, and yeah, just a whole lot of focus on himself going on there. Ultimately learned that he needs to be thinking more about others than just himself and get his priorities straight on some of his responsibilities. So again, back to some growth and personal responsibility there, some good maturity coming out of that. Moving to season 4, we have Power Ponies, where we found Spike being overly critical of himself. He just saw himself as kind of this useless, bumbling sidekick that really had no real value besides being comic relief. And he also kind of felt just worthless in part because all his friends around him, all had abilities beyond what he was capable of. I mean, it's kind of almost superpowers in some ways. And from that, he ended up learning that just because your friends don't always need you does not mean that you don't have value to your friends. And you also don't need superpowers to be a super friend. That's word for word what Spike said. But yeah, great little lesson there. And I think at that stage in the show, it was an important thing to address for him because he has been bounced around a lot as just kind of comic relief and kind of, kicked around a lot. So that was a fun little moment for him in there. Also, season 4, Inspiration Manifestation. Interesting episode, to say the least. It caused a lot of trouble by giving Rarity that dark magic spell. And it was a case where he could have stopped it a lot earlier, but he didn't want to, have the confrontation with Rarity to tell her the truth that, he saw her doing things that weren't right. I'm sure he thought that he was going to make Rarity mad at him and lose her affection and her friendship in doing so. And he ultimately had to learn that you need to be honest with your friends when they're doing something that is not right. And also that a true friend will know that you're speaking up about it because you care about them and won't, end a friendship over that just because of that. So, good lesson there. And then the very next episode after that one, Equestria Games. Definitely is a bit of a defining moment, I felt like, for him. Understandable problem at first. He felt like he let everyone down by failing to actually light the torch himself. Twilight kind of cheated and helped out with that. And because of that, understandably, he kept wanting to find something else to do, some way to contribute to the games where he was, honoring the games, but he was doing it himself, not having somebody else do it for him. And I certainly do empathize with that. But it got to the point where at the end, he ended up saving the Crystal Empire again, kind of, by melting the giant ice ball. And, but then he didn't feel like he'd really done anything special, like he was still, kind of beating himself down and feeling worthless. And basically, he was too hung up on the things that had gone wrong to recognize what went right. And ultimately, from that, learned that you have to stop dwelling on the mistakes of the past in order to not let that drag you down and prevent you from doing great things going forward. Letting go of things in the past and acknowledging the good that you are now doing is a very difficult and very important thing that everybody needs to do. Because it's too easy to just let those things in the past keep beating you down and rob you your accomplishments of the present. So, very important lesson there. And of course, Season 5 gives us Princess Spike. Another little bit of a problematic episode. But honestly, again, you strip away some of the absurdities and very good lesson in there. That was the case, as we all know, where Spike got jealous about all the attention and adoration that the princesses were getting. And, at first, his efforts were legitimately trying to just keep things under control, to let Twilight sleep. But then he found himself in a position where he was able to sort of act on her authority, and nobody was the wiser. And he he really started enjoying feeling like this big important person, and he let things get a little out of control there. And in the end, he, as Twilight pointed out to him, well, just like a princess, you need to own up to your mistake and fix things and make it right. And to his credit, he definitely did do that, and he did it well. And that kind of ended up being sort of a first lesson in diplomacy for him, with how he had to confront all the dignitaries from various parts of Equestria and stuff, and smooth over all the ruffled feathers and stuff there. Moving on to Season 6, we have the Crystalling. Very small part of this, he was not a main character of focus there, but I loved the little bit in there where, even though he was getting all this, adoration and attention from the Crystal Ponies, once again, because of all his feats from the past, he did not let that get in the way of his task of helping Starlight Glimmer to meet up with Sunburst after all these years. That was a task he was assigned, and he made sure to step away from basking in the praise of the Crystal Ponies to make sure that Starlight stayed on task to fulfill her lesson. So I thought that was a very mature thing of him to do there. And of course, the big one in Season 6, Gauntlet of Fire, is to date is still pretty much my most favorite Spike episode ever. A huge step forward for Spike in maturity. He saw his friends, his home, his family, his home, his very way of life threatened by the dragons. If pretty much any of those other dragons had come into power, then that could have been very, very bad news for Equestria. So he took it upon himself to compete for the title of Dragon Lord in order to try to save his home. Nobody did that but him. He was not pressured by anyone. He just stepped up, stepped out, and put himself under significant risk in order to save his home and his friends, which was just a fantastic thing for him to do. And also in the process, he ended up sharing the magic of friendship with Ember and began international relations with the dragons. So that was a really cool thing. And then later on, that same season, the times they are a changeling, Spike found himself defending a changeling who was actually really good at heart, namely Thorax. And that was a really tough position for him because he was getting serious pressure from everyone to back away from that. And he almost did completely abandon his friendship with Thorax, but he dug in his heels, he stood firm on his convictions, and defended Thorax. And he ended up being the one to teach Twilight and everyone else a good lesson, and that a new friend can come from anywhere. And you can start to see here where Spike he's had all these cool lessons for himself, learning about himself, and now he's actually kind of turned around and become a little bit of a teacher himself on some of these things. So it's really cool to see him just kind of be able to take a lot of the lessons that others have learned that he's been along on the ride with and apply those himself. So that was a really cool moment. And likewise there in Dungeons and Discords, we saw him, along with Big Mac, deciding to befriend Discord, which was not an easy thing to do. So the fact that they were not only willing to do that, but also to kind of stick through it and do their best to, find a way to coexist with the guy. I mean, that was, again, big step forward in maturity there, I felt like, for Spike. And of course we got Triple Threat in Season 7, which is, kind of a little bit of a step backwards in some aspects, but, you gotta look at it this way. I mean, Spike himself is now personally responsible for international relations with 2 neighboring countries / species. That is a difficult position to be in. And, ended up getting his wires crossed a little bit with double booking Ember and Thorax. And, I mean, yes, they're his friends, but there's also international relations implications that could result from this meetup. So, lacking personal experience with handling situations like this. I mean, he's basically almost in Twilight shoes, in this particular episode. And, but yeah, because of his lack of experience, he was too worried about what would go wrong that he didn't think about what could go right. So ended up, basically lying to them to try and keep them apart, keep them away from each other, and just obviously things went awry. And he got called by the cutie map to fix it, which I think is also a sign of maturity, because the cutie map is like, okay, you're old enough, you're mature enough, this is your problem, you made it, it's your turn to go fix it now. So you knew he was capable of doing so that was really good. And yeah, ultimately he realized that he was wrong for being dishonest with that and needed to set things right. So, and you know, obviously this is just a lot of the, you know, the good aspects of it. There's a lot of, Spike's been in a ton of episodes, you know, a lot of little bits and pieces here and there I haven't covered. The point is that, you know, even though he still has a lot of issues, I mean, he definitely has an ego problem, you know, he's got some maturity things to work on still. He's not a perfect character by any means, but he has grown one heck of a lot. And my hat's off to how far he has actually come throughout the duration of this show. And that brings us to Season 8 with Molt Down. As I said, fantastic episode here. And a lot of... it's actually kind of funny how he kind of became... Even though he's the character of interest in the episode, he simultaneously served as kind of comic relief. It worked really well. But yeah, faced with this Molt, you know, and new information from Smolder, I love the way that they use Smolder for this instead of Ember and Trip to the Dragonlands. Just really cool way to make that connection there. Yeah, with added new information, you know, this going on now, Spike is once again confronted with his dragon heritage, kind of like, you know, kind of a little bit of a second round identity crisis, the first being back in Dragon Quest. Yeah, and once again, we find him fearing rejection from his family and friends over this entire ordeal. You know, I had kind of hoped he was past that, but, you know, like I said, that we've seen evidence that that's still kind of a, you know, a deep down fear of his, and certain situations can bring that back to the surface. And, you know, and this time it's understandable too. You know, he's got fairly legitimate concerns about his friend's safety, because, I mean, with those uncontrollable fire burps, he was incinerating everything in sight. So, you know, I'm sure he's concerned about additional changes coming in the future, that, you know, he's afraid of hurting somebody if he's not able to control himself. So, you know, legitimate concerns, granted. But along with all that, he just ended up feeling like he was about to become like an entirely different person. And he needed to learn that he himself doesn't completely change just because he goes through a life change. You know, big changes are a big part of life. I mean, life is change. That's one of the few constants in this world, is change. And I mean, you know, changes come in all forms. There's obviously physical growth, but there's other big life events. You know, moving to a new town. You know, going to new schools, changing to a new job, new career. You know, or other things like, you know, loss of loved ones. I mean, there's a lot of really big things out there that happen throughout the course of our lives. Some of them very positive, some of them rather negative, some of them could go either way. We you know, they're scary because there's all that uncertainty. We don't know which way it's going to go until it actually happens. But the thing you need to remember is that, to keep in mind, you have to accept these changes and be able to move forward, and not just, you know, worry about what could be or dwell on what could have been, or you know, anything like that. I mean, you can waste an awful lot of time, you know, worrying about what's to come, or, you know, if something didn't go your way, you know, thinking about what could have been if you just done things differently. You know, you can't get bogged down in that stuff. You just have to accept that stuff happens, and you got to adapt and move forward. And, you know, these changes, they don't change who you are, who you really are deep down, not unless you let them. They become part of you, but then you become more of yourself. It's not like you become a completely different person. It's again, unless you let it. It's more, it enhances who you are. You become more of yourself as a result. And, you know, it's very true. There are some things in your life that, you know, after certain changes, there are things that may become less important to you and kind of fall by the wayside. That is part of life, and that's not necessarily always a bad thing either. You know, sometimes you got to let go of certain things in order to make room in your life for more important things. But there are other times where you have to make sure to hold on to things that the world wants to tear away from you. You know, things like remembering how to laugh, how to have fun, you know, about how to care for one another instead of, you know, just stepping on somebody else for personal gain. So, you know, big change, it's not always welcome, and not always fun, but, you know, we need to give it a chance and not run away from it, because you never know what what good things might come of it. And believe me, I can speak personally to this. I'm not going to spend a lot of time doing it, but there's definitely been things in my past, you know, career-wise and, you know, family-wise and whatever that, you know, I remember to this day, and I keep thinking about as I go back sometimes. Again, it's hard not to continue dwelling on things in the past. But, you know, looking back at some of these things, like, okay, there were bad moments, but I can now, at this point in present day, I can look back and see, you know, if that hadn't happened, I may not be to the place that I am now, which is a much better place. So, you know, again, you can't always see what's coming, but you just have to, you know, have faith that there will be better days ahead. So, fantastic lesson in this, definitely. And yeah, big change, big change for Spike. It's going to be fun to see how he handles this going forward now with these wings. I'm sure the animators are going to have a lot more fun too, trying to deal with him flying around everywhere. That's going to be more work on their part. But anyway, and then I don't want to spend a lot of time on this. This is already running a bit long, but Spike and Rarity, I've talked before about this. I'm not a fan of it. I don't need to rehash a lot of this. Just to make a couple brief points. I know Rarity definitely cares about Spike as a friend. That much is quite clear. We know that Rarity has, at least at some point, been aware of Spike's crush. We saw that back in Secret of My Excess in Season 2. We know that Twilight is currently aware of the crush thing in this episode because she made note that, you know, Spike was all stressed out because he was spending time with Rarity. I'm not sure if Rarity is still honestly fully aware of this situation. And I kind of get the feeling it's just the case where she has become so accustomed to his help that she might not be realizing that this crush is still a thing. Like that's the driving force behind all he's doing to help her out. So, and that may not even be the case. I mean, some of it might just be that he's, you know, helping her because he's her friend. But we've seen enough evidence, even just in this season, that the crush is still alive and well. So, and now, you know, it's been kind of cute. There's been cute moments, granted, but given that Spike is legitimately, you know, maturing and growing older now, it's like, I feel like it's becoming a bit of a problem. And I don't personally see there being anything serious happening between Rarity and Spike ever. Really on Rarity's part, if it was going to happen, it should have happened by now. So my hope is that Spike will fairly soon kind of wise up and move on from this. And, you know, he did seem rather frustrated at the end of the episode, like he was trying to, you know, poke at Rarity, like, hey, don't you think there's awesome things about wings besides just this? And then Rarity was just stuck on her, or his helping her with all her dress work and everything. And he was kind of rather frustrated by that. So I think he's maybe finally seeing that this just isn't really going anywhere. So we'll just have to see what happens with that, if anything. It'd be nice if they kind of, finally address that before the series ends, but if they don't, oh well, I guess. But anyway. So, that's basically about it for this episode. I'm gonna say this is probably my second favorite episode for Spike, next to Gauntlet of Fire at this point. So, yeah, I'm gonna wrap it up there. Thanks for watching, everyone, and thanks again, Josh, for an awesome episode, and everyone that works on these episodes. And catch you again, hopefully very soon, for the next reaction. Later.